You got dreams in your pocket, they glow. A little spark, a little fire, let them show. Every step you take, you're building more. Through every open, unlocked door. Click apply, make your play. Turn the page, start today. Keep the faith, build with care. Able's your future, always there. The road ahead, it twists and bends, but every journey finds its ends. Hold the reins, you've got the power. This is your moment, your finest hour. Click apply, make your play. Turn the page, start today. Keep the faith, build with care. Able's your future, always there. What you see is what you'll make. Every leap is yours to take. Dreams aren't whispers, they're a shout. Able helps you work it out. Click apply, make your play. Turn the page, start today. Keep the faith, build with care. Able's your future, always there.
The introductory music track was generated by Suno. I'd like to start with a few housekeeping items. Listening to the webinar. The audio for today's meeting can be accessed using computer audio or by calling in by phone. If you select computer audio, please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. If you do not have sound capabilities on your computer or prefer to listen by phone, dial 1-929-205-6099. Meeting code 849-9327-3316. Today we are joined by Captions First, who is providing real-time captioning, and Interpreter Now, providing American Sign Language interpretation. As a reminder, the webinar is being recorded and you will have access to the PowerPoint slides, this recording, and supplemental materials. In some of the slides, there's a direct link to go to a site that will give you more information. You will have access to click on these links in the PDF. To access the ASL interpretation, please click on Interpretation in the menu bar at the bottom of your screen and then select American Sign Language. Please note there are 2 interpreters who will alternate throughout the presentation. To view captions in another language, click Show Captions CC button in Zoom, then use the arrow next to it to choose your preferred language. Note, if you do not see the captions after clicking the button, nor see the ASL interpreters on screen, please alert the host via the QA box. QA box. We will be using the QA box Zoom feature throughout the webinar. If you have a technical problem, please use this box to alert the NDI host. When we announce a specific ABLE topic, type questions you have for that topic into the Q&A box. We will read them out loud and answer live as time permits. You can upvote by clicking on thumbs up if you have the same question, or you can add comments or respond to another attendee's question. Please visit Frequently Asked Questions at Able National Resource Center. Disclaimer. National Disability Institute, NDI, is the author and copyright holder of this content, which is provided solely for educational purposes. This material is not intended to replace or supersede local, state, or federal agencies, including applicable laws or regulations. NDI assumes no responsibility for learner interpretations of the content or for any alterations made by third parties. As of May 1st, 2026, NDI ensured the accuracy of the data and links provided. However, external links and benefit information are subject to change. Users are advised to verify numbers before providing services. NDI does not offer direct services, benefits, or financial counseling, and this content is not intended as such.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jody Ellis, and I am the director of the ABLE National Resource Center, which is owned and managed by National Disability Institute. ABLE NRC provides all the ABLE information that you need in one place. We share reliable, objective information about ABLE, including plan comparisons, best practices, and strategies to increase savings for now as well as into the future. Our mission is to educate, promote, and support the positive impact that ABLE can make on the lives of millions of Americans with disabilities and their families. I am joined today by 5 ABLE experts. We have Stephanie Cantor. She's filling in for JJ Hanley, representing the Illinois ABLE Plan. And Stephanie is joined by Thomas Hatch. He's the operations manager for Stable Accounts, and the Stable Accounts manage or administer the Ohio ABLE Plan, as well as a collective and consortium of many other ABLE plans in the country. And then Thomas and Stephanie are joined by Lori, Kelly, and Marlene, who are all colleagues of mine at NDI. And Lori and Marlene are managers of financial empowerment. Kelly Land is a trainer and technical assistance specialist, and all 3 are ABLE subject matter experts. So let's move on to review the topics that we will be covering today. So I do want to share that in April of 2026, we had a Q&A session, and we covered a lot of the introductory topics. But there were such a volume of questions, we knew that we had to host another Q&A session and really spend some time on more of the advanced topics. So we've already covered getting started, what the ABLE eligibility is, how to compare and select a plan, how to open accounts, how to make contributions into accounts. And we also spent a lot of time on qualified disability expenses, or QDEs as we call them. And so today I did put QDEs on the list of potential topics that we could cover, but that is only if time permits, because we did already cover QDEs in another session. So that session from April has been recorded. So if you have any of those types of questions about getting started in eligibility and opening up accounts, I encourage you to go to our resource library on the ablenrc.org website, and you can click by webinars and you will see the recording of that session. Today, what we're going to be covering are the more advanced topics. So this includes support from others, managing an account and different saving strategies, addressing investment questions, and then other advanced categories we can certainly cover. So Again, what I will do is when we start, which we're going to start with support from others, because there's such a volume of questions, if you could hold entering in your question in Q&A until that particular topic comes up. So what we would like to do now is to take questions that involve support from others. So if you are a family member, if you're a representative payee, an entity, and you've got questions about supporting an ABLE account owner, or if you're an ABLE account owner and you've got some questions about who can support you and what roles that they can play, that is the type of question to go ahead and put in the Q&A box now. And just a reminder, you can put your questions in Q&A anonymously, or you can have your name associated with it. But just please know if it is anonymous, we won't be able to respond back to you if we don't get to your question today. But that is up to you. I just wanted to share that. And also, please ensure that your question doesn't include any private information. We want to make sure that everyone's privacy is protected in the Q&A. So with those ground rules covered, let's go ahead and get started. So support from others, and we'll just move to the next slide of account ownership and control. So I'm going to pause for a second and see, like Kelly, if you want to just start sharing some of the questions that have come through. That is fine. Up on the screen right now, we are sharing that accounts are always opened in the name of the person with a disability, and authorized legal representative or the account owner can choose others to help them with their account and access various levels of information. And there is a prescribed hierarchy of support of who can help someone either open the account and or manage the account. So Kelly.
Yeah, just a few that I think would fit into this category. One is, how long has ABLE been a government program for persons with disabilities? Has it ever gone through changes through legislation or changes to that? And has it ever stopped or assumed all the money in a single account? I know it's not really support from others, but I think it fits under like the government realm of ABLE accounts.
Yeah, yeah. So again, for any of the experts, I don't want to put you on the spot, but feel free if you feel comfortable answering it. I know Thomas Hatch has a significant amount of experience with the ABLE plans with Ohio starting right up 10 years ago. But if any of you feel comfortable answering, that'd be great.
Sure, Jody, I'll answer that. I appreciate being on with everybody today. So the ABLE law was established now 11 and a half years ago. It was in December of 2014 when the federal government passed the law that created the Achieving a Better Life Experience Act. From the standpoint of how long these have been offered, that act created the structure. And then states created their own state laws to govern how their state was going to operate. And the first program, which is Ohio, that we're proud of that, was in June 1st of 2016. And along with Ohio in 2016, there were 7 other states that created programs. So by the end of 2016, there were 8 programs in existence. And then many more came on between 2017 and 2018. So in total, these have been around for at least 10 years at the longest point. Many programs are national, meaning that similar to a college savings program, you can choose whichever state program that you would like. Not all of them are, so you want to look at the specific rules of that program. And there has been some significant adjustments over time. So the federal agency that was tasked with overseeing this program from the beginning was the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. And they initially came out with some preliminary rules and then later came out with some finalized rules. In addition to that, there's also been a couple significant legislative adjustments at the federal level. In particular, there was one, and sometimes I always forget the names of the acts that created these, but there was the Jobs and something or other act that was a number of years ago that added the opportunity for individuals with college savings accounts to roll over some of the money from that account into an ABLE account. And that's a whole nother topic we could describe further. And then you also had the ability for individuals who were employed to contribute beyond the standard contribution amount. And then there's also a savers credit, which can apply to some people maybe in the taxation. So those were created. And then also, of course, the most significant one for this year that many people remember is back with I think they called it the One Big Beautiful Bill, whatever you call that act that happened, that the age of onset of the disability adjusted from 26 to 46. That implemented this year as of January 1st, and is certainly a significant rule change to broaden the scope of eligibility for a lot of individuals.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for being so thorough with that. Kelly, are there specific questions with, a circle of support, self-determination, and the decision-making around ABLE accounts that we should answer live? If not, I can go to a registration question that was pretty popular.
Yeah, let me glance through here really quick. One is, and this might be an ABLE NRC question. I'm having difficulty comparing and choosing state plans. Is there someone I can talk through? And I know we have our comparison tool, but I didn't know if our other experts had ways that they usually would guide people to look at the state plans.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for raising that question. The selecting and comparing plans was covered in our prior webinar, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but we always share that a best practice is to look at your own state ABLE plan first, because there could be some tax advantages, either tax credits, tax deductions, specific to your state income tax for ABLE contributions, as well as your plan might have some incentives for enrollment. So with that, as Thomas had mentioned, there are lots of different plans that do allow out-of-state residents. So you would want to go ahead and look on those plan tools that we have. Great, thanks, Kelly. One of the questions that came up in registration frequently was, when you're enrolling or opening up an account, so this question's probably for Stephanie or for Thomas, but when you're opening up an account, but you're opening up the account for another person, so say it's a parent for their minor child, how do you fill in the information? Like, I think there's been some confusion, like, are they filling out the details for themselves as either the authorized legal representative or parent of a minor? How does that work?
Yes, I'm happy to jump in on that one. And like Thomas, I'm really delighted to be here and with all of you this afternoon. It's a really great question because it can be a little confusing because, as your first bullet point notes, in the world of ABLE, the account owner is always the eligible person with a disability. So if you are an individual opening up the account on behalf of someone else, as in your example, Jody, a parent opening an account for their child, the child's information would be filled in for the account owner's information. And then the parent's information would be filled in for, some plans called the authorized legal representative, agent. In our plan, we called the authorized individual.
Great. Great. Thank you for that. And thanks for clarifying that. We also had questions like, can a grandparent open an ABLE account? So on this slide, you will see that there is a hierarchy of support. And so it's up to the person. The account owner can designate support if they don't have an authorized legal representative or agent already, and assuming that they're age of majority, they can decide. Otherwise, if they're a minor, certainly the parent or legal guardian could open the account on their behalf. With the circle of support, on the next slide, we do share, it is good to understand the different roles of supporters. There's especially representative payees. And I know a lot of ABLE plans have really made some major strides that have made it easier for organizations who are representative payees to be able to open and manage multiple ABLE accounts at one time. So that's another enhancement that a lot of plans have made to make that easier. Kelly, any other questions with support from others? And if not, then we can move into ABLE and trusts, because I know that there's always questions about 529 rollovers, trust accounts, and the intersectionality with some other accounts and how that works with ABLE accounts. But before we move to that, I just want to make sure that we've addressed all the questions live for this section that we plan on.
Yeah, I believe that we have. There are a few about who notarized the account and the rep payee, but I think Stephanie did a great job of answering that question. So I think we're good to move on.
Okay, excellent. So moving on to the intersectionality of ABLE and other accounts. So that's on the next slide, I believe. Yeah. So I think I know when we started this webinar, I already saw so many questions that were asked in the chat. But now for the chat, please, if you have questions about how ABLE interacts with a trust account, a 529 rollover, a 530A or Trump account, now would be a time to put those questions in the Q&A. And I don't know if there were questions that already raised, but we could just start with, can someone have a trust account and an ABLE account? And maybe in terms of answering that question, but then when would you choose one over the other, or what are some of the benefits of an ABLE account? So I don't know who would like to answer that, but I'll open it up to the experts.
Jody, would you like me to answer that question?
Sure.
There's major differences between a special needs or a pooled trust and an ABLE account. And there's differences in who can open the account, whether it's the person with a disability or another third party. There's differences in contribution limits, and there may be differences in how it affects means tested or government benefits. Generally, a special needs or a pooled trust can accept larger sums of money, whereas an ABLE account has an annual contribution limit. An employed or working ABLE account holder has a little higher limit than that $20,000 limit. But there's other differences also with regards to taxation of the account or taxation of growth, and a lot of other differences. Actually, they can complement one another, though. A special needs or an ABLE account or a special needs trust or a pool trust can actually contribute into an ABLE account up to the annual contribution limit. And we've seen that at the ABLE National Resource Center in many cases where someone needed to supplement their income or their funds, perhaps to pay for housing expenses or their monthly expenses, things like that. But they can actually work side by side and work together very nicely.
Great, thank you. And I know during registration, there was a lot of questions about how do you use your 529 account to put funds into an able account? So I think that's like actually we know it's possible in terms of the policy or the regulations, but I think those questions were specific to how would you do that? So I don't know, Stephanie, do you want to start with answering that, and then Thomas, feel free to add on.
Absolutely. Um, so you can. So let's say there was a 529 account, an education savings account, set up for either the able account beneficiary, the account owner, or a family member of the account owner. Funds from that education savings 529 account can be rolled over into the account owner's able account, um, up to the contribution limit for the calendar year. And so for 2026, that's $20,000 from all sources. So let's say a 529 was set up and it may not be, the individual, the account owner may not be going to college. Those funds can be rolled over into the ABLE account, noting that the ABLE funds can still be used for educational expenses.
Right, right.
Yeah, and Jody, I'll add that if you're looking at sort of how does this work, I would go to the plan that you're involved in and go out to their website. Usually this needs to be done via a form. So you get the form off of that program's website. Typically, it can be done, usually there's a singular form. There might be different forms. It can be done typically in one of two ways, either a direct transfer where the college savings sends it directly to the program, the ABLE program. But there can be some differences there where if a college savings plan won't allow that, then they'll do what's called an indirect rollover, which is basically send the check to you and then you turn around and send the check to the ABLE program. But all of that will be documented on the plan's website with the applicable forms that you need to fill out.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much. Kelly, are there other questions in the Q&A about whether it's trust accounts, 529 rollovers, or 530A accounts that we haven't answered yet?
Yeah, we have several of them. So I'll start with the 529 plan questions. So the first one is, can we please touch upon how to distribute funds through a 529 plan, then have ABLE pay for their transition program? I'm not sure if they're thinking like college or if there's another transition program, but I think the heart of the question there is, how do the 529 funds roll over into an ABLE account so then it can be used for QDEs?
Right. And I think we answered that. But
So this is Lori. Let
yeah.
me take that question. So transition fees often can be paid for by a school district or by vocational rehabilitation program in that individual state. And so you want to see always if there is a source of funding that will pay for something that you need. And then once the 529 funds, a portion of them, up to $20,000 from all combined sources that calendar year, are deposited into ABLE account, if you need some of those funds to help cover transition service fees, you may do that and pay for those fees directly from the ABLE account and keep receipts for that calendar year for everything spent from the ABLE account for at least 7 years. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying, Lori. Great.
The next question, again regarding 529, are there any downsides to investing 100% into my child's 529 plan and then transferring it over to the ABLE account as needed? I thought you'd come off, Thomas.
Yeah. So really the only downside that I would think is that those transfers can only be up to the annual maximum amount for the ABLE plan, right? So if you ended up accumulating a large amount of money in the college savings plan, you couldn't move it over into the ABLE account all at one time. It's up to this year 20,000, and that's 20,000 if other contributions haven't already been made to the account before you make that transfer. So that would really be the only downside. Certainly, college savings plans. Have different benefits and features and investment options. And if you wanted to go that route, that would be totally fine. Just keep in mind that there is the limits on how much you can move from that to the ABLE account each year. And I guess the other thing too, real quick, when you do move that too, there's the consideration of if let's say at the beginning of the year, I decided let's move the full 20,000 from my college savings plan over to the ABLE account. Well, if you did that, now you've used up the whole ABLE contribution limit for the year and no more money can go in. So if there's other sources of funds that you need to put into the account, then that could either restrict doing that or it's going to reduce the amount that you can take from the college savings plan.
Thank you. And switching gears over to 401ks, I guess a general question is, can a 401k account be deposited into an ABLE account? This person did specify a state, but I think we can answer that more general.
Yeah, and I can jump on that one as well. So there is no provision to move funds from, I would say, any kind of retirement account into an ABLE account directly. With a 401k, the funds would need to be withdrawn, which has its own consequences. There would be tax penalties and all kinds of other things. But if it was withdrawn into your personal care, then the withdrawn funds could be moved into the ABLE account if you so chose. But I would heavily advise before doing that to speak to a tax advisor, maybe an attorney, a counselor of some sort, because there are certain restrictions and penalties from those accounts should the money be taken out early. And there might even be restrictions on whether you can take the money out if it's an active 401k plan that you're actively employed. Many times you can't touch that money until you leave employment.
Thank you. And I do want to point out that in the chat, we do have a comparison chart for ABLE accounts and trust accounts. So if there are other questions that we don't get to today, that comparison tool offers lots of detailed information. Kelly, anything else in this section before we move on?
Yeah, just to piggyback on the 401ks, I understand an ABLE account holder who works, who doesn't have a retirement plan, can ask an employer to make payments to their ABLE account. How do we recommend that that be done?
Well, I can offer an answer. I'm not sure if it's the
Right?
so if the question is how do they approach their employer about asking them, I don't know if I have a lot of advice there other than um, letting the employer know that this is something they could do. It is a legal option that they have. But certainly our advice would be, or general recommendation would be to have those funds directly deposited. Many programs have that ability to provide the employer with the account information that they would need to directly transfer those funds from the employer into their ABLE account. So as far as a transfer mechanism, that would be the advisable route to go.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I know a lot of plans have a direct deposit form or a way for employers to directly contribute an employee's earnings, if that's the question. And Able NRC also has an employer toolkit that is designed to help employers raise awareness and have information about ABLE accounts for their workforce. And there's also a few details for employees as well. So you may want to check that out.
And Jody, I know that we have a lot more content to get to, but I just want to address really quick. There was a question on issues regarding connecting a special needs trust to an ABLE account. And I just want to clarify that there's not really an issue around that. It's more about the contribution limits and moving trust account funds to ABLE accounts, if we want to clarify that just a little bit, to make sure that people understand they can have both accounts. And another question was, what if I've contributed 20,000? What's my next option for my child? And I think that's where the special needs trust can come in as well. So diversifying our funds.
Great, great. Thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, we are going to move on to managing an ABLE account as well as saving strategies. So if you have specific questions, go ahead and put it in the Q&A box related to managing an ABLE account. If you have any questions related to saving strategies, go ahead and answer that. And I do want to recognize that we have a couple of raised hands, and we're not able to address everyone's raised hands. We're really hoping that you're able to put any question that you have in the Q&A that we can respond to. So I do apologize that we won't be able to get to the raised hand feature today. But let's go ahead with the money management and managing an account. So money management, this slide really is pertaining to any account, is not exclusive to an ABLE account, but we do encourage ABLE account owners to prepare a spending plan, really understand how much income is coming in, how much expenses are going out, and then is there any leftover funds, income that you could that you have at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter that you could contribute into your ABLE account. And we recommend setting SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely or time-sensitive, time-directed goals. And of course, we do have a best practice of contributing regularly, so setting up automatic payments. And on the next slide, here are some questions that came in during the registration that we went ahead and just answered on the screen, but we had questions about how to withdraw the funds for paying for qualified disability expenses. Our answers were you could use your debit card or a prepaid card, a check, or an electronic transfer of funds. How long does the account remain active without making new contributions or withdrawals? And we say usually it's until funds are spent down. And then we had a question that came in about what happens if the account owner receives supplemental security income and their ABLE account goes over $100,000. What is that impact? And in that case, the SSI benefits are suspended, but they are not terminated. It just means that payments would stop for that month or for subsequent months where it's over. And Medicaid does continue. And then once the balance is under $100,000, then SSI benefit payments can resume. So Kelly, any questions with that? And then I think after this, we're going to turn it over to Marlene to help manage the Q&A and come up with, let us know the questions that we can answer live, but anything with account management that the expert panel can answer.
I know that we answered some of these on our last webinar, but there are several questions around if the owner of the account passes away, what are the next steps for that? Can we just do a general overview of that?
Yes, I'm going to ask Lori to go ahead and provide an initial answer, and then Thomas and Stephanie, obviously, please feel free to add on.
Sure. So upon the death of the ABLE account owner, a death certificate can be submitted to the ABLE account, and whoever's named on that account can communicate requesting that funds be used to cover outstanding qualified disability expenses, which can include funeral and burial expenses for the ABLE account owner. And then, based upon the ABLE plan and the state of residence of that ABLE account owner, Medicaid may opt to step in and request that remaining funds be used to pay or reimburse Medicaid for expenses that Medicaid paid for since the opening of that ABLE account. Would someone like to speak about a qualified sibling or a beneficiary?
Sure.
Are you seeing that? Great.
Happy to jump in on that, and I'm sure Thomas will add more context as well. So if an account owner dies and there are funds remaining in the account after outstanding qualified disability expenses have been paid, funeral and burial expenses have been paid, if there is a successor account owner that was named to the account prior to the account owner's passing, depending on each state's sort of timeline for holding funds for potential Medicaid recovery, the remaining funds in the account can be moved to that successor account owner. Now, successor account owner needs to be another ABLE eligible person, specifically a sibling, if there's going to be a rollover without the rollover being treated as a non-qualified disability expense. I hope I explained that in a way that it makes sense. It can be rolled over to another eligible individual who is not a sibling. In some plans may restrict it to siblings only. But if it were to roll over or move into the estate and to another beneficiary who's not ABLE eligible, it would be treated as a non-qualified expense. So any earnings would be taxed and there'd be penalties.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie. And then on the next slide, we did have like other account management questions, like can Social Security checks be directly deposited into an ABLE account? I know a lot of ABLE plans are set up where there can be a direct deposit. So Stephanie and Thomas, I'm not sure if your respective plans have that feature or not, if you want to respond to that.
Yeah, thanks, Jody. I can tell you within our particular plan or any plan supported by Vestwell as a program manager does have the option to set up direct deposit directly from the Social Security Administration. This can actually be for any Social Security Administration benefit, not just simply SSI only. I will say, though, that in my understanding, the difficulty, though, is that I believe the Social Security Administration does limit individuals to only direct deposit to one location or source. So therefore, it's kind of an all or nothing. You can't split it up and say, send half to my bank account and half to the ABLE account. Usually, when you sign up for it, it has to be 100% of those funds. But yes, at least within our platform, that is allowable.
The same for the programs that are managed by a census. There can be direct deposits set up for Social Security payments, not exclusively SSI or SSDI.
And Jody, I'd like to add also, it's my understanding as well that Social Security payments can only go to one source, not to multiple locations or multiple accounts.
Yes. Yep. Thank you. And so we're gonna ask one more question related to this, but I do want to reserve some time for investment questions because I know that there were a lot of investment questions that have come through. So if you do have questions about how you're allocating contributions in your ABLE account, go ahead and put that in the Q&A box now. But in terms of the account management, let's end with questions that have been raised in the Q&A about documentation needed for tax purposes and recording either contributions and or expenses and how that is reported. So I don't know, Thomas or Stephanie, if you want to say how it's reported for your plans. I know the program managers kind of take care of filling out some tax forms and submitting them directly to the IRS, but if you want to expand upon that.
Sure, I'll tackle this one as well. Taxes are always an interesting topic. So there are two forms that you might get during tax time, depending on activity in your account. One of them is a 1099 SA, and there's also a 5498 SA. One reports contributions made to your account that year, and the other one reports withdrawals from the account. Just be aware that these are informational statements only. In general, not likely to be needed by a tax preparer when they're preparing your taxes. It's just a requirement that the program manager send you these forms if you've made contributions and or withdrawals, or if any have been made to your account. And the number that's sent is the total for the year. It's not broken down. There's no listing. There's no itemized list or anything like that. So certainly, if you have questions, you can take those forms to a tax advisor, and they could look at them. The only thing that I think would be relevant really is if there was a possibility that you made a non-qualified withdrawal during the year, because that can have some tax consequences. But if they were all used for qualified expenses, then generally they're just forms that you'll receive, you'll keep on hand, but likely not need to report or use.
Can I just reiterate and piggyback on Tom, but something that Marlene, I think it was Marlene said earlier, we really do recommend that people keep documentation of expenses that have been paid out of the account. You never have to approve an expense to the plan or the program that you've opened your account with, but in case the IRS were ever to knock on your door, you'd want to have that documentation handy.
And
Thank you.
Stephanie, based upon what you've said too, what I understand is there are some apps where you can track your expenses, where you could take a picture of an expense and categorize it. So that may be helpful to some folks.
Yes. Yeah.
And sorry, Jody, let me add one more thing, because I think this can also get some people frustrated. The Internal Revenue Service is always very interested in amount of time they allow for these forms to be sent. So the 1099 SA is actually due by January 31st of the following year. So if it was this tax year, it would be due then. The 5498 actually is not technically have to be sent until mid-March. So if you're not receiving that form immediately, it's not that the program manager is necessarily stalling on purpose, but just understand that that's the guidelines. So if you want to understand that, it might help to know timing of when you might receive those forms in the mail.
Great, thank you. Yeah, ABLE accounts and taxes are a popular topic. ABLE NRC usually hosts an annual tax time tips webinar to kind of help out with answering some of those tax specific questions. But in a nutshell, to just kind of wrap that up, is the ABLE plans are reporting contributions and expenses to the IRS, but it is really up to the ABLE account owner and their authorized legal representative to keep receipts and to indicate that it was a qualified disability expense. Only the able account owner is going to know that it is a QDE because it is enhancing their independence, health, and overall quality of life. Let's move on. We have 10 minutes remaining of our webinar, and I would like to focus some time on ABLE investment questions. These are a lot of questions have come in, like where do I put my funds that I want to contribute into my ABLE account? Many ABLE plans on the next slide. We have identified that there are checking account options for many plans that are FDIC insured. And then depending upon the plan, because each plan is different, there are different investment options that may be available. So on this slide, we just are sharing some examples of investment options that may be available for a plan, ranging from a money market to conservative to moderate to growth to aggressive options. And on the left of the slide, this is just one example of an investment that is moderately conservative option, which has 30% stocks, 45% bonds, and then cash or cash equivalents like a check bearing account at 25%. So that's one example. And then we can go on to the next slide as we go ahead and answer live some questions that may have been asked in the Q&A box.
Jody, there's a lot of questions in the Q&A box surrounding investing. I think that's a hot topic right now. But I've seen a couple of questions asking, what's the minimum amount of money that someone can invest? Does it have to be a huge sum of money, or could it be a smaller amount of money? What's the minimum?
Yeah, I can answer that. And I'm sure for Stephanie, the answer is the same. And that's however much money you have in your account, up to $1. I don't believe we can invest less than $1. But yeah, most plans will have a minimum initial contribution of at least $25. Some could have up to $50. And even at that small amount, you can put that in any of the investment options that are available.
Yeah, I'm just going to add, when you open and enroll in a program and open an account, you are going to be asked how you want the money that's being contributed, how you want that money invested. So it is any money that's coming into the account will be considered an investment from the get-go. And as Tom mentioned, very low cost of entry. Could be as small as $1, $25, $50. I always hesitate saying small amounts because, you need to put more in order to see money grow, but you can get started with a small amount of money.
Great, thank you. And on this slide, we just share, if people are trying to decide which type of investment option to select, right? It's not anything that any of us can decide on behalf of the ABLE account owner. It's really an individualized decision. And it could depend upon what are your goals and what purpose or what do you want to use your ABLE funds for. So we just have a couple of guidelines, like if you have short-term goals, then and you want that money available soon, then you may want to lean more heavily towards checking, savings, and conservative options. But if you have long-term goals where you don't need the funds in the immediate future, then you consider other investment options that offer a higher growth potential over time. And on the next slide, I think we go into even a little bit more detail with diversifying savings and investments. So Marlene, other questions that have come up, and then maybe we'll answer 2 more questions, and then we will wrap up the session for today.
Yeah, there's so many questions. Someone asked, how do we know what makes up these investments? Are they just generic stocks or bonds? And then how do we know how the investments are performing so that we can invest wisely?
This is a great question. So the ABLE plan disclosure documents list the investment options for that particular ABLE plan. And within the ABLE National Resource Center comparison tools, we provide a link for each ABLE plan's performance to date reports that are listed on each ABLE plan's website.
Yeah, Stephanie and Thomas, do you have any that you want to add specific to your plans?
No, I think that captures it. On our website, and I'm sure on every plan's website, you can get performance data as well as in the plan disclosure booklet, see a breakdown of sort of the underlying funds that are in each of the investment options.
And also, I'm sorry, Thomas.
Sorry, Marlene. I just also wanted to, I have a financial background, so I always have to add in the disclaimer too that prior returns are not indicative of future outcomes. So as good as it is to see how they've performed and what we're reporting is what they've actually done, please understand that that's not necessarily indicative of what these are going to do going forward. So it's a good thing to understand and see, and it gives you some history. But certainly, as Jody mentioned, make some considerations for how much time before you need this money, what your goals are, and even just how you feel about risk. Some people are a little bit more okay with risk than others, and that's all going to be important information when you make that decision.
Thank you, Tom. I just wanted to remind people too that plans are changing their investment options, and that updated information is listed within the comparison tools as well. And I put the link within the chat box for that. And some of the ABLE plans have opened up like a checking savings account option that is accruing interest, maybe 2%, and that account may also be FDIC insured. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
so
Marlene.
yeah, it just really depends on the plan. So yeah, looking at the plan disclosure booklet is and in your plan site is really the best avenue to go. And
I just
Marlene?
wanted to add, if someone's investments are doing outstanding, or someone's investments are just kind of mediocre, middle of the road, can they change those options? Can they make changes?
Yeah, so I'll answer this one. I'm glad you brought that up, Marlene, because I wanted to make sure this got said before we end the webinar today, because this is really important. So the way that the plan rules are structured, and this comes from the federal legislation that was passed, is that you only have the opportunity 2 times per year to change your investments as far as selling something that's in your current account and moving it to a different investment option. That's really important because if somehow you don't understand that and you do that the first month or two of the year, then you're done for the rest of the year. I will say though, and this goes along with something Stephanie had mentioned, this is kind of a little tip or trick for you, is instead of selling an investment and moving it to something new, you can always adjust how the new contributions coming in are invested. So another way to kind of get around that rule and to help diversify how your money's invested is by selecting a different option as the money's being contributed into the account. Whether that's done as you're making the contribution or if there's just a set standard that you have within the account saying every time I make a contribution, invest it this way. Usually you can adjust that as many times as you want. And that will help you put money into different options. But if you sell out and move it to a different option, you're restricted to twice per year.
Yes, really important to know. Thanks for fitting that in. We at Able NRC, we do have a webinar that is going to be coming up in August, August 13th. And we're going to be talking about kind of the foundation of investing and saving and the difference between the two. It is not specific to an ABLE plan, but it's just kind of some introductory information before we move on to maybe some of the specific ABLE plan investment choices. So please check back on our website for a registration link to that webinar that will be posted in the future. All right, so Marlene, is there one more? I do want to get to a couple of resources, if not, but if there is something burning, I want to just give that one last opportunity.
I am looking. How can I transfer money into my bank account into the specific options? Not sure exactly what they're asking.
So this is Lori. So maybe a best practice is for an ABLE account owner to deposit their income into their checking account, pay for housing, monthly expenses from that checking account, and then deposit the extra money into the ABLE account. ABLE account funds, for tracking purposes, it's best if the ABLE account pays directly for qualified disability expenses when possible. Then you have a receipt that you can hold on to for this calendar year for at least 7 years, should the IRS conduct an audit.
Great, thank you. Thanks for ending with a best practice. We will share a couple of resource slides. I'm gonna just provide a very quick overview so that you know where you can access more information. We have success stories by our ABLE account ambassadors. These are ABLE account owners and family members, and they share how they are using their ABLE accounts towards their goals, and it might inspire other people to see what they can do with ABLE and appreciating the power of ABLE. ABLE NRC has a handful of resources where you can learn and compare and plan. There's frequently asked questions, glossary of terms, webinar recordings, comparison tools, as we've mentioned multiple times. We have home ownership guides. We also have decision guides, and these are a series of step-by-step guides that are designed to support informed ABLE decisions. And on the next slide, we kind of give a list of what some of these topics are that you can find on our website. We also have toolkits. There's a ABLE Veterans Toolkit, an Employer Toolkit that we mentioned, a Service Provider Toolkit, and Transition Aged Youth Toolkit. And then NDI also has many other resources and other service projects that they support. So you may want to visit the Financial Resilience Center, learn about accessible transportation and assistive technology, or small business or an employment dream network, employment network, AIDEN. And lastly, we ask you to stay connected with us. Please continue to share information about ABLE accounts with your friends, family, and community groups. Subscribe to receive our Achievable newsletter and get other important ABLE-related updates. And follow at National Disability Institute on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And we also have a dedicated YouTube channel, both NDI and the ABLE NRC. So with that, we do all need to work together to promote the power of ABLE accounts. So if we did not get to your question, please visit our website. We have frequently asked questions. It's been placed in the chat. And if you need additional guidance, you are welcome to email us at info@ablenrc.org. So special thanks to Prudential for being a valued supporter of our work. And I just want to wish you all a wonderful day. And I hope you come back to our next webinar, which we will be hosting in August of 2026.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you, experts. Thank
thanks.
you, Thomas and Stephanie.
You.
Have a great holiday, everyone.
You too.
You too.
Thank you.